All right, yo. This is the last one here for the week. Um, we're gonna have a little fun with this one. I don't really know what I want to call this one, but I think we'll call it this. I think we'll call it, yeah. Inject bacterial toxin into your face. Why don't you? That's a normal thing to do. What? We'll talk about what the heck I mean, but we got to save that for the end. That's called a hook. All right. Well, we're going to have an activity on this. But as you can see, we've got ATP being needed here to release these myosin heads. We need ATP to bind. Right? To release the myosin head. And we also need ATP to pump calcium back into the sarcoplasm. And I don't know, let's look at this. We got 300 myosins per sarcomere. Also in that last video, my computer fucking died right at the end. So there's a video I actually want to watch with you. But let me finish this setup. Okay, we got 300 myosins per bundle, and then there's 300,000 muscle cells in a bicep. There's how many sarcomeres? Yeah, 100,000 sarcomeres in a myofibril. 300 myosins per head, 1,000 fibrils per cell. I mean, this stuff is bananas. Like, think about that. Think about how much ATP this thing is going through. All right. So we need some buffers, some ways to store ATP. And we'll talk about those. But let's watch this little video here on just the sarcomere contraction, just so we can get a little kind of video understanding how this thing works. It's not very long. It's like a minute. I don't know if it's
Striated muscle
there's
is
sound.
made up of bundles of multinucleated muscle cells called myofibers.
I'm just going to shut him off. So here we got our myofibril coming out of our muscle cell. These are our sarcomeres with our thick and thin filaments. Sarcomere, myosin, actin, Z-disc. Look at our little myosin heads coming up. You don't have to know about titin, but it's a big, long protein. That's why it's called titin. Look at that. Oh, isn't that crazy? Look at them walking. It's pretty good. Let's zoom in on that. We got tropomyosin, we got titin, we got myosin, we got actin. Look at them walking. Slippy sliding. They be slippy sliding. Get your wood on the dance floor. Make my day. Boom. So now we got tropomyosin, all that stuff. ATP binds. Oh, look at that. It releases. Oh, look at that. Ooh, goodbye, phosphate. Later. That's the power stroke. Ooh, yeah, goodbye. Bind that ATP. Slide it forward, you know what I'm saying? Ooh, so delicate. So beautiful. It's wonderful. Okay, it doesn't really show how calcium's involved, but you get the picture. Okay, I want to exit. Okay, cool. All right, so that's the basics of how a sarcomere contracts, what's going on with myosin and actin. And like I was just saying, like there's thousands and thousands and ATP getting used and just so many. I mean, we're going to calculate it, I promise, but it's a lot. So we need to have some systems in place. And we have myosin, let's just say myosin motors here, and they need to churn through ATP. So what they're going to do is boom. These guys are going to be churning through ATP. Sorry, excuse me. These myosin motors are going to be churning through ATP. So ATP is going to come in. I'm trying to think how I want to draw this. So you're going to need ATP, and then they're going to release ADP. Right? I think I want to do this like circles. Yeah, something like this. We'll see if I can make this make sense in my brain. My brain is not working. I apologize. ADP. All right. And we got this little thing over here called creatine. So they're just churning. Just churning. We got creatine. I'm sure you've heard of this. Creatine. What is this thing doing? Creatine, it passes ATP, or it passes phosphate to myosin motors, or to ADP. So creatine, let's see if I can work through this in my brain. What it can do is we have creatine phosphate, and then we have creatine phosphate. So it's creatine with a phosphate on it. What it can do is it'll see this naked ADP, and it will pass its phosphate. It will pass its phosphate to it so that it can go right back into the myosin motor. It'll pass the phosphate. Just like a basketball. Boom. Do a little assist move. Then this creatine phosphate will go up here. Back to creatine. And it wants to go back to creatine phosphate. And how does it do that? Well, we've got to add a phosphate back to it. So what we do is we do cellular respiration to make ATP. Seems kind of counterintuitive. But we can use this basically as a storage bank. So we do cellular respiration, which is going to convert ADP, right, to ATP. Oops. So cellular respiration converts ADP to ATP, and then ATP can dump its phosphate onto creatine to make creatine phosphate. And so then the whole purpose of this is we can continue to make ATPs, but really it's to like load up a storage bank of creatine phosphates on top of all of the ATP that we have. Like that. Something like that. So the example we kind of do in class when we do this in person is we have like one basketball shooter, like shooting paper, little papers, little balled up paper. And we have 10 people behind him that are ready to hand him new paper. That's like what's going on here. We've got all these creatine phosphates ready to pass their phosphates to ATP so that they can feed myosin. We don't have to go through cellular respiration because we already did it before and we've saved this all up. Whereas, so you can shoot those baskets really fast. Boom, 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 boom. Then we have another student who's got to like, the ATP's got to get used, you got to shoot it, and then you got to walk all the way back to like the mitochondria to get another phosphate before you can shoot again. And so then you got this like travel time of like going back and forth, and it's really slow. So this is a phosphate storage system. We can easily transfer this between. We lose a little bit of energy in the process, but not a ton. Phosphate storage system. Easily transferred to ADP to make more ATP quickly. Pretty crazy. All right. All right, so that's what creatine phosphate is. It's not going to make your muscles any bigger. What it's going to do is allow you to work harder longer. And some pretty just important little stuff about muscles here I want to talk about in regards to this. So we got an energy source. We're just going to make like a little table here. Quantity, and time of use. So how are your muscles actually doing this? They require an insane amount of ATP. How are we doing this? So if we just have stored ATP, just like the ATP available in the cell. Quantity, how much of that do we have? Small amounts, very small amount. Because it's constantly being cycled and turned over. ATP is being used all the time. So we got about 2 to 3 seconds worth. Just from our stored ATP. All right, now creatine phosphate. Stored creatine phosphate. Stored creatine. Creatine. I don't know what that word is. Just needs an E at the end. Failed me. You failed me. Stored creatine phosphate. How much of this do we have? We have about 5 times. About 5 times the amount of stored ATP. Pretty nifty. Which means that allows us to use it for, 5 times this. Let's say like 10 seconds. 10 to 15 seconds, something like that. So we get 2 to 3 seconds here, and then we get 10 seconds here. Okay, it's making sense. It's starting to make sense why we get fatigue so quickly in our muscles. Why it's hard to do a bunch of push-ups or to do a bunch of pull-ups. It's because you run out of ATP, essentially. And then you run out of creatine, and now it's pretty tough to move them bad boys. But if you take 30 seconds to a minute off, you start to warm back up. You get your ATP back. All right, we can do this again. So this is essentially how we get into muscle fatigue. And I didn't really talk about this, but we have 2 different types of respiration. Anaerobic, which I didn't talk about, and then we have aerobic, which we did talk about, which requires oxygen. Aerobic. This is mitochondria, because we have oxygen present. We have O2 present, so we're going to use our mitochondria. Anaerobic, no oxygen present. We're out of oxygen. We just do glycolysis because we don't have oxygen present. Anaerobic, no O2. Only glycolysis is performed. So you get very little ATP out of this. But you can do it. You can break down sugar without oxygen and get some energy out of it. But you certainly ain't getting 10 million a second like you are when you do aerobic. But both of these are happening in your muscles. This actually produces, as a byproduct, lactic acid. Which is product why your muscles get sore. And we're doing this just from burning through sugar. We can burn through a bunch of sugar, and it depends on the muscle, but we can get this from glycogen. I'm not going to give you a number. Depends on glycogen storage. Which, if you don't remember what glycogen is, shame on you. It's sugar stored as a polysaccharide. Your liver stores about 2,000 calories worth of the glycogen. Your muscles don't store quite that much. And so this will be like 3 to 5 minutes. You can get by for like 3 to 5 minutes with this. Sorry. That was a long buildup. And then of course we always have this. This doesn't really have a quantity. It just depends on oxygen availability. But it's always going on, and so it's always present. But it will increase, always present, but will increase over time as blood flow to muscles increases. So you'll dilate your cardiovascular system, your capillaries, and all that around the muscle to allow more blood to flow to the muscle. So that's kind of how your muscle is getting and using all this energy. All right, it's pretty cool. It's pretty nifty. Okay, what do I want to talk about next? All right, let's talk about these. All right, so we got a couple different types of muscle that do things a little differently. I'm going to put a couple of muscly boys up here. We got something called, some of you may be familiar with this, we got fast twitch fibers. And all of you will be familiar with this by the end of this. And we've got slow twitch fibers. So these are our more endurance, and these are our more quick burst sprinting weightlifting fibers. And there's a lot of differences between these, and let's just list some. So fast twitch fibers, obviously, from their name, contract quickly. And your muscles will be different mixtures of these. They will contract quickly, break down ATP fast, obviously, if they're contracting quickly. They will have less mitochondria, fewer blood vessels. Better that way. Yeah, it does. Stores lots of glycogen. So these are going to use anaerobic respiration quite a bit. And these are your white muscles. So use anaerobic, not oxygen, anaerobic. Use anaerobic metabolism or respiration metabolism. These are your white muscles. So like chicken breast, for example, is this. That's why chickens can't fly very far. They can flap their wings and get a little lift, but they can't like fly to freaking South America. Stupid chickens. I love chickens. So this is like sprinting, like I said, sprinting. weightlifting. And these like you build more myofibrils in the muscle. Builds more myofibrils in the muscle cell to enlarge. So if you want to get swole, you want to do these fast twitch fiber activities to make your bulkiness bulk up. You even lift, bro? You lift, bro? All right. Man, this snotty nose is really hitting the peak here, bro. Apologies for that. We're almost done. All right, slow twitch fibers, the exact opposite. They take a while to contract slowly. They contract slowly, and they're going to have a lot of vascular tissue. Lots of vascular tissue. They have many mitochondria, mitochondria, lots of vascular tissue. This means they lots of blood flow. Lots of blood flow. Many mitochondria, so they can make ATP quick. Make lots of ATP, right? So these are going to rely heavily on oxygen. They don't store a lot of glycogen, so they're going to be dependent on that flow of new sugar from your blood system. So if you're trying to burn calories, these are the muscles you want to activate over a long period of time, right? Because you want that blood sugar to come from your fat cells. You break down fat into little sugars, and then it goes to feed your muscles. These are your red meat, red muscles. Red muscles. And we'll talk about why that is. And obviously they're used for endurance. Endurance activities like walking and so on, and running, and activities like walking, running, and maintaining posture. Like I'm doing right now, sitting here. When we use my fast twitch fibers, they begin fatigued. That's pretty interesting stuff there, I think. I think that stuff's pretty cool. Okay. And I think that's really all I want to hit on that. So let's just move on to like a little fun fact, and we'll call it a day. We're going to talk about two little interesting things. So we're going to go kind of back to this neuromuscular junction. Okay, so I'm going to kind of redraw one of these. We'll just draw a little muscle cell. Which looks something like this. And it's going to have some striations. Should be a little thinner. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, it's so good. Oh, I make myself happy. Okay, and we've got our nuclei. Man, I feel like garbage, people. I thought I was going to kind of kick this cold without feeling bad. Turns out I was wrong. All right, so we got our multiple nuclei. Look at that. It's looking like a muscle fiber. Okay, and then we've got our neuron coming down. Our synapse from our neuron. Remember that? Oh, that looks like a bone. I'll draw it in blue. And they actually kind of like... They form these actually like beautiful, like little alien... I need to draw this simple though, sorry. Nope, that's looking like something else. Okay, let's call it like that. Okay, cool. All right, cool. And I don't really have time to talk about the way that this works in detail. But let's talk about a couple of toxins, and this stuff's pretty crazy. Let's just talk first about we'll save the best for last. Let's talk about this one first. So this is our activating neuron. Okay, but sometimes there's also these other neurons that come in, they're called inhibitory neurons, and they shut this one off. So this would be our inhibitory neuron. It prevents the activating neuron from firing, right? It turns it off from firing. That's important. You wouldn't want your muscles firing all the time. Well, guess what? What do you think happens? Let's say we get infected with tetanus, which is a bacteria. This is a prokaryote. This is a bacteria. This is a bacteria, the prokaryote, and it releases tetanus toxin. It releases a toxin that inhibits, let's check this out, our inhibitory neurons connected to our muscles. All right, that's pretty crazy. So it's going to inhibit this inhibitory neuron. All right, so let's just inhibit that. Boom, it inhibited that. So what does that mean? This neuron, what's a positive green? The activating neuron will now continually fire, causing tetanus. I'm not going to show any pictures of this. I kind of actually should. It's pretty crazy though. Let me see if I can pull one up. I didn't pull one up at a time, sorry. Tetanus. It's pretty crazy. So all of our muscles are going to be firing continually because they can no longer be shut off. Oh yeah, here's a drawing of one. I think this is just from Wikipedia. Fantastic. This is like a Renaissance style painting of one. And this is what it looks like. If you're like imagine an infant just like this. You could hold its little head and its body would be just like that because you're so contracted and you can't stop. It's almost like you're rigor mortis, but you're alive. Every muscle in your body is now contracting because you've no longer activated it. So that's for tetanus. This is from a bacteria. There's this whole like thing that everybody, I don't know if your family did, but my family's like, I don't step on rusty nails. Be careful, wear your shoes, don't step on rusty nails. I was raised by lesbians and that's that's how they talk. Don't step on them. You'll get tetanus. Tetanus lives in soil. It's a bacteria that lives in soil. So don't rub dirt in your wounds. It has nothing to do with rust or rusty nails. Just so you know. All right, what happened to my other nuclei? Where'd it go? All right, I'm gonna cheat and copy paste erase. All right, now I'm gonna reveal this one at the end of what exactly it is. Don't need that one anymore. Don't need that. Don't need this. This is another toxin. Still the activating neuron, don't need that. Okay, still the activating neuron of our muscle fiber. And we're going to release a toxin. And we're going to make this one pink. So we're going to release a toxin. I'm not going to reveal what it is. It's a toxin. Okay. And what this does is it inactivates the activating neuron. Okay, so it just goes right to the source and it turns this bad boy off. And the last one we turned off the inhibitor, so now this thing's firing too much. Now we're just turning off the activating neuron. So we're going to turn this off. Boom. Now that boy's off. Can't fire. Activating neuron cannot fire. Activating neuron cannot tell the muscle to contract. So the muscle's always very relaxed. Take it easy, muscle. Just have yourself a lazy Sunday, like I wish I was having. But instead I'm sick and I'm lecturing about muscles. It's great. It's my job. I love it. I'm gonna drink some tea. I get paid to do this. Okay. What is this? This is called botulism toxin. Botulism toxin. That sounds terrible. Okay. Botox, that's what that is, Botox. It is a bacterial toxin that you are slamming into your face. Look at these crow's feet. Look at these crow's feet. I need to get some Botox. I need to get some Botox. Look at these crow's feet. Oh my god, I'm so ugly. I must go inject a bacterial toxin in my face to remain youthful and beautiful. How freaking, that's cuckoo, dude. That's straight up cuckoo to me. And they inject micro amounts of this botulism toxin. This is the reason why we had to can food, why we had to can food and pressurize it and heat it so high, is because botulism toxin will kill you, bro. Botulism is just another bacteria. This is a bacteria. Another prokaryote. And it can form these little spores to survive heat. It doesn't, you don't have to know that, but it's pretty nifty. All right, so it's something like this. I don't remember the exact number, but like if you take a can of Coke, if you take the sugar in a can of Coke, let me look up exactly what that is. Sugar in a can of Coke. I know the 20-ounce bottle is 65 grams. Yes, 39 grams. It's about that. It's about 30 grams. It is about 39 grams of sugar. So like that'd be a fun experiment to do. Buy a can of Coke and just boil off everything. Boil off the water and just see, look at that sugar. 30 grams worth. That's probably like, I don't know, 10 sugar cubes or something. Something like that, maybe a little bit less. That amount of botulism toxin, let's write that in red because it's pretty serious. That same amount of botulism toxin. It's funny how they don't call it that. Oh yeah, I'm going to go get my botulism toxin injected into my face. That same amount, that 39 grams, about a can of Coke's worth, maybe even, I think it's like 9 grams less than that, but we'll just say 39. That same amount of botulism toxin is enough to kill the entire country. That's pretty wild. That's how little of amount they're injecting into people's faces. And I don't know, why not? I don't know, why not just go for it, bro? Why don't you get like really beautiful and just mummify yourself and be preserved forever. Yeah, like just, yeah, can you give me the full dose of the botulism toxin so that it kills me? And then can you just like hermetically seal me in a chamber and plastinate me all simultaneously and then put me in amber? Because I want to be beautiful forever. All right. I'm sure there's more I want to talk about, but we'll end it there. Inject bacterial toxin in your face. Why don't you? Later. I'll see you in the activities.